And assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars, and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing.
Expanding that child tax credit, or you mentioned housing before, giving that extra money for a first home. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you still go forward with those plans and borrow?
Well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, and we're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share.
Talk about that answer.
I do, but here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question around if the GOP is controlling the Senate, if she can't raise corporate taxes, where is she going to get the money from, to expand the child tax credit and do all the things she wants to do? And she says, we just have to do it. And that's great, and that's a campaign promise. But the issue is, if it means we're just going to borrow again, then what we're doing is we're just never addressing the deficit. And back in the days when you were a proud Republican, debts and deficits mattered.
What's the first word that pops into your head when you hear the name Kamala Harris?
Liar.
Boy, that kid's great. I mean, to answer it that quickly, he didn't even think about it. This woman's a liar. I mean, I know liars. Pants on fires.
You had all the journalists, everything. I thought the kid summed it up well.
Yeah. It was the kid, they're beating around the bush, and this kid's just stating the obvious, Eric.
Well, Mark, it does turn out that it's not Trump that's influenced by a Russian agent. It's actually Kamala. And here's some proof.
Rumors for Kamala Harris being influenced by a Russian agent.
Yeah,
Look, I don't know if that's her drink of choice, but Yakov Smirnov was a very funny Russian comedian. I don't know if he retired, but yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, like her whole circular, I said, what was the guy's name? Greg from the Body group. Greg.
Greg Hartley.
Greg Hartley's been coming on to Greg Kelly's show on Newsmax as a regular guest to analyze her body language. Mm-hmm. And he was pointing out how the hand gestures did not match up with the verbal cues. And he said that it was her thinking of the right thing to say. So the cues are off, but with the hands. And I think she's high. I think she's drunk, which I'd love to tell him that, because I think those are the hand gestures I know of inebriated or high people.
I'll text him that, but
I will. She's out of sync, like she's high. Eric is all I want.
Well, there's also an out of sync that she has too, and it's just straight deception.
Right,
like when she says, "I am there for all Americans." That's a very standard, deception. And Jose body language guy like clipped a bunch of parts where she's like, I guess, and every time the lips get pursed, that's withholding information.
What about this? What is this thing? I've never seen anybody do this.
Well, the nose can also be a sign of stress, because as we get stressed, the capillaries start to ping up and your nose will itch.
Right.
So it could be that. That's sometimes weird. Somebody, when they're lying under stress, they will scratch their nose or have issues like that.
Well, I used to think it was cocaine running out of my nose, and then I'd look in the mirror and
it was white.
And it was white, and I was correct. So that's the marker I use for scratching your nose repeatedly while being interviewed.
Yeah.
Your nose can get runny.
Right. Now, before we get heavy into the show, I do want to talk about what's going on with Haleen. A lot of our audience is in Florida, in North Carolina, audience in Tennessee. And I love the spirit with Haleen coming on here.
You gotta love this guy. This guy's he's a hero. The boat people are great. I mean, they're just going. Yeah, you got to hit the ground running. If the ground is not there, you got to hit the boat running. Look at this guy. This is my favorite guy. He's totally defiant. Nothing's going to stop him. Nothing.
That's a strong dude too, by the way. But that's hard to hold like he is.
Yeah.
I would not arm wrestle that guy.
Wow, those guys apparently have signed up for Trump Force 47 and you know, dedicated their lives to getting Trump elected or reelected.
For sure. Now, I don't know the status of this, but they've got a dam that's literally about to bust.
Was that in North Carolina?
In North Carolina, I mean, it is bad. The Lake Lure Dam, and this is earlier today. And I mean, this is not a tiny dam.
The left hates dams.
Yeah, well, damn it.
God damn. The left really hates dams. In California, dams are the equivalent of nuclear power plants.
I can see that. But it's, I mean, they were used to get electric energy. So,
well, they don't like electric energy. That's one thing they hate is electric energy.
That's true. That's true. Unless you're talking about gasoline, then they really hate that.
I really hate that. You know, the nuclear power industry is really starting to push. You know, that's what I was saying. That documentary by Oliver is really interesting. Nuclear now. I don't know how much longer we could survive on wind power out here in California, but well, he's going after the oil. He does this every once in a while. He goes after the oil industry, saying that they're price gouging. Why they started now, there's no explanation for it. But he believes in his crazy mind, Newsom, that they decided to wake up and price gouge the state of California only, just the state, not Arizona, not Texas. It makes no sense every time. Gouging. Right. And he, you know, again, put together a board to investigate the price gouging as to why the gasoline's so high. And all they do is hate California. So it's pretty obvious why it's happening.
Yeah. Anyway, my thoughts are with everybody. This is Tennessee, somebody's house.
Well, where is the epicenter? Like the coast of Florida, the left coast of Florida?
It went up Florida and then just kind of straight over Atlanta, and I believe kind of pivoted inland, Tennessee, North Carolina. I don't know where it is right now. I mean, it's dark here, so we're not. But I don't think we're actually getting this storm. It's like we're getting another storm.
That seems like another storm. You know,
but
by the way, I found out
went really quickly.
I found out about Ryan Ruth and his money, Eric. Apparently, he had a GoFundMe page that raised a lot of money for his drones, and that's where I believe the rest of his travel money came from.
Really?
He had a GoFundMe to raise money for Ukrainian drones, and legit or not legit, a lot of people donated to that GoFundMe. And I think that led to him having available money to do what he was doing.
Okay, that's interesting.
Before I forget, I just wanted to put that out there. I dug that out this week.
All right. Well, I'm going to do a masterful transition here. First off, you know that the storm was bad because Waffle House shut down.
Dude, you're
multiple locations.
Is the storm coming to you? What's with you and the storm all of a sudden?
Oh, I'm fascinated by it, but I'm also leading into the next story here. So.
Go ahead. I think I know where you're going with this.
Yeah. We had the Waffle House thing. So that leads into another tragic story for Mark, and that's Lana Del Rey, famously of the Waffle House.
The darkest day of my life. Lana Del Rey, what Eric was alluding to, took a job as a waitress in a Waffle House somewhere near Montgomery, Alabama.
Yep.
And today has married the alligator man in Louisiana, where he lives with his airboats, which you could see on the left. This guy somehow is roped in, the incredible genius. This is his operation there. I don't know if you could see the airboats there on the left. He's got like 3 or 4 of them. He takes a lot of celebrities on tours of the bayou in his airboat and does stuff with alligators. down there, and has tours. I mean, that's his life. He's divorced. He's got 2 or 3 kids. He's 53 years old, and apparently a great guy. So God bless her for finding a great guy and hooking up with him. And now she's got a family in Louisiana. She's in the middle of Trump country when she was doing the Waffle House, and now this. I have to presume that she's come over to the other side. No woman could live down there. She's worth about $30 million. He's worth about $30,000. It's a match made in heaven. It's a match made in heaven, Eric. But I'm completely crushed. And I love Lana Del Rey, and she's got a lot of fans, and originally from New York. But God bless her. That's all I can tell you. I wish her the best. I will predict right now, he will be eaten and killed by an alligator. She will write an album about it. She will mourn and be a widow of the alligator man at some point, because he's in his mid-50s now. And still, I don't know if you have any photos of him with the alligators, what he does with them. It kind of reminds me of Steve, what's his name, who got killed by the...
Which, ironically, he wasn't killed by a crocodile. He was killed by a stingray. So,
okay, but
you got to have some irony there.
Right. I think that he's going to turn his back on one of these alligators at one point, and they're going to pull him into the bayou there. Now, that being said, I had a friend named Willie Weed, and he moved to Orlando, and he had an airboat, and he had huge marijuana fields on the border of Disney. And in the middle of the fields, he had a camouflage. You couldn't even see that the weed was in there. The pot was growing in there. And it was right on the border with Disneyland. And he had a compound down there, but he also had an airboat. And he took us out on his airboat, where he hit an alligator and broke his blade, cracked his wooden blade, and he was embittered about that. But that didn't stop him. Yeah, here's a picture of her husband kissing one of the alligators that I think will devour him at some point over the next couple of years, making her a widow. But Willie Weed's airboat that he took us out on got the broken blade, very angry, drags the gator, the dead gator, which must have been like 9 feet long, onto the airboat, to my horror, and it was dead from the blade. And he took it back and had his girlfriend cook it for us, and it tasted like chicken, Eric. That's all I can tell you. I ate gator in Orlando, Florida. Why I was there, I think there's a statute of limitations on why I was there, but the killing of the gator with that airboat, which was the same as the one that he's got, was shocking to me.
All right. Well, while we're speaking about health, guess what? We have a sponsor. America, listen up. It's no coincidence that we're seeing a surge of new health crises just as critical decisions need to be made. First, a massive COVID-19 spike with 1.2 million new cases reported daily. Then the World Health Organization declares monkeypox a global health emergency. And now we're gearing up for a bird flu summit. It's clear they're setting the stage for more planned pandemics. These aren't just coincidences, they're calculated moves to keep us in fear and control. Were you prepared for the last pandemic? A shocking 48% of Americans don't have any emergency supplies ready, according to the National Center of Disaster Preparedness. We saw how the medical and pharmaceutical industries failed us last time. They left us to fend for ourselves. Do you really want to count on them again? It's time to take control. Get the Contagion Emergency Kit from the Wellness Company. It's packed with ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, Z-Pak, Tamiflu, budesonide, and nebulizer, the treatments they didn't want you to have. Forget waiting in line or struggling to find a doctor willing to prescribe these life-saving medications. Just a few clicks and this kit is at your door, ready for whatever comes next. Don't let yourself be caught off guard again. Act now and protect your family from the next pandemic. Be proactive, be prepared. Order your Contagion Emergency Kit today. Visit TWCHealth/Eric to get your Contagion Emergency Kit today. Use the promo code AUS at checkout to save $30. Once again, that's TWC.health/Eric. Use the code AUS to claim your discount. Remember, these kits are limited and only available in the USA.
Well,
By the way, back to the gator story and the storm story. We'll roll them in together.
Right.
People are having gators swimming up to their houses and stuff now.
Right. No. That's kind of where I was going. That happens all the time in these kinds of stories. So it's a lot of gator information today.
Yep. It's a gator cleanup crew on their way.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting thing. Okay, so we just had the Ruth scenario. You were talking about his money. Where he came from.
Oh, by the way, his kid. They're now suggesting that the Iranian hackers planted the 10 billion things of child porn on the kid's computer.
Oh,
I heard that late today. That was part of the hack. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, interesting. I was going to say is that next week Trump is going back to Butler.
Oh boy. All right, let's bring it on. I mean, this Iranian thing, when it's put out by 4 different government agencies that Iran was behind the assassination, I try to point out to people on Twitter that President Clinton went on the air, national TV, when they attempted to assassinate George Herbert Walker Bush, who he had just defeated in the election. Walker Bush went to Kuwait City. They uncovered a completely reputable assassination plot to kill him. And Clinton went on television and said, I'm launching cruise missiles into the intelligence building and the compound surrounding it, and leveled the entire thing, which is exactly what Trump is saying. And people are ridiculing or attacking Trump for saying this is, not what's it called when it's equal response to a threat, like equal. There's a phrase for it. This is not an equal response. But Clinton actually did it. There's a historical record of doing this.
And who said it needs to be equal?
People on Twitter. Some people on Twitter.
Parody. Okay.
Yeah, people on Twitter were saying it.
But that's just asinine. It's like,
I agree.
Oh, so it didn't hurt you that bad, so ours doesn't hurt you that bad, so you'll come back. No, the whole point is to have overwhelming response. Even Colin Powell, the Powell doctrine.
We've done it before with Bush and Clinton. I mean, people don't know their own American history, for Christ's sakes.
Well, most will react with more of a response than what they got.
Right.
That's called a warning. It's like, punching the bully in the nose.
Yeah. Well, that being said, we don't know if it's elements within the State Department who are pro-Iranian or elements within the administration itself that have been outed as pro-Iranian that are actually working with the Iranian secret police to pull off these events. This is unprecedented, Eric.
There we go. Proportionate response.
Proportionate response. That's what. Thank you. That's the phrase I was looking for. We have now, it's kind of like the Red Scare. It's kind of like when there were commies in the State Department. And it's kind of like a situation where they were saying that there were communists involved in the killing of JFK, whether the communists were pro-Castro forces or pro-Moscow forces. Don't forget, the Soviet Union came out within an hour saying that they had nothing to do with the JFK assassination. And their own internal review, which took a couple of years, pointed to LBJ as their likely suspect. This is the KGB's internal study, which we learned later when the Soviet Union collapsed. Their main suspect, like mine and Eric's, was LBJ.
Oh, well, it's kind of like, here it is.
Yeah.
Sounds like they're coming for me. Okay, you sent me this one. I saw this as well. More Secret Service chicanery going on here.
Oh my God!
We have a Secret Service agent accused of assaulting a staffer.
Well, okay, so they retire to her room, but in the room are other people. So he's drunk, she's drunk. She invites him back to her room. He didn't force himself into the room. She invited him back to the room. He's hammered. Why he's hammered, I have no idea. But they were hammered during the JFK assassination the night before, and as the African American Bolden, the Secret Service agent Abraham Bolden, said they were drunk all the time. The year before, when he was on the White House detail, drinking moonshine and white liquor and everything else. And now we had the incident in Colombia, and now this incident. I don't know if he's going to be charged with sexual assault, but
then we had someone attack another one too.
So
attack in LA area.
Yeah, that was Well, there was the shootout with the Secret Service agent, but there was also the internal fighting of two agents when she was in charge of the Secret Service. I forget about that incident. That was kind of covered up pretty quick. But my favorite story is the drone story, how the guy was on the 800 customer service in Butler trying. Did you not hear this? He was on one of the Secret Service agents who's in charge of drones. This is because they kept saying, where were the Secret Service drones? And the question was never answered, but it's been answered in the new bipartisan report that is 10,000 pages long, which I have to get through at some point in my life. It just came down last night. Greg Kelly's going to go through it, and he urged a lot of followers to go through it. I'm going to download it and go through it. This is the Bipartisan Commission on the Assassination attempt in Butler. And one of the revelations was that the guy in charge of drones for the Secret Service for that event didn't know how to work them, and he was on hold with the 800 customer service number for the drone company overseas. You can't make this up, Eric.
Oh, which company is it? I wonder.
It didn't say. It didn't say which company. Maybe it's in the report, but they didn't say in this particular thing. But the point of the matter was, this is like Keystone Cops. He's on hold at Butler on an 800 number that anybody would be calling. And also they use different channels, which we kind of knew before about the comms mishap. And and
the cops were kind of ghettoized into their own comm, and then they had to relay it over to something else.
Well, they also, they're the only ones not to record their conversations were the Secret Service, and they deleted all the texts. They've deleted everything.
Wow.
Wow. Wow.
All right. Well, we're going to be having more New York later, but Trump had a visitor today.
The little man has shown up. The little man. Dude, I don't get the deal. I've never understood what is going on with this war. I really still can't get my mind. I thought this would have been over in a normal administration a year and a half ago, where they said, sit down, let's work it out, whatever. There's no desire for peace on the part of the Biden administration. There's clearly no desire for peace on the part of the Zelensky administration, because his back is up against the wall. Now the nuclear threats that are coming out of Belarus, if missiles are launched into Belarus, he said he's going to go nuclear. Putin signed a new nuclear doctrine, lowering the bar for nuclear usage. NBC immediately said he's bluffing. That's where we are right now. That's where we are. Where a bunch of women on NBC say that this guy, Putin, is with nuclear weapons, even though he signed this legislation, that if United States missiles, Western missiles, are launched into the heart of Russia, he will use nuclear weapons. He says that's an existential threat to the existence of Russia. And he's not incorrect. But again, it's not like our backs are against the wall. Why are they doing this based on the idea that maybe he's bluffing and we can get away with this? I mean, what is the motivation other than money for the arms industry, which is always motivation? But you really want to go to DEFCON 12 for this? For this? I mean, it's astounding. It's astounding. If some country invaded a random country that didn't have the baiting of Ukraine and the shelling in the Donbass and everything else we know about, the CIA toppling the Ukrainian government, blah, blah, blah. If a random country out of the blue invaded another random country that we had a defense pact with, it's on. I get it. It's on. And you got to do what you got to do. Like some random country invaded France. Right. Okay. This is not that. This is not that anybody wants to die over this thing. And yet they just have gone full bore for 3 years. It astounds me. It absolutely astounds me. And even more astounding that it's Democrats who are doing it when the Republicans used to be the Bush war party.
Well, technically, Jimmy Dore said it, and I was like, holy shit, he's right. He said that Democrats are Bush.
Yeah. They've completely
literally switched.
Yeah.
100%. So
100% switch. It's crazy.
I mean, and who'd have thunk it? And we're literally looking at
Look, money's money. The war industry needs their money. I get it, but there's plenty of things we could buy from them, and there's plenty of ways for them to make money. They've now drained all of the military resources of every single country in the EU. They don't have a tank. They don't have a missile. They don't have anything left. And the EU is just hoping that we'll protect them. They got another thing coming if they think this administration is going to protect them. The only thing they could think of is protecting themselves.
True. All right. So we've got our guest coming in now. We have a major breaking story in New York. And to help us figure that out, we have the illustrious Al Gonzalez.
Hey, Gonzo. Gonzo, what's up?
How you doing, boys?
The old bagpiper himself is back.
Watch out. You might tempt me to get up and play him, and then we'll chase the whole
audience. No, not this episode, but the next episode. I'd love to hear that.
Well, now, the bagpipes are playing for Adam's career at the moment.
Well, let's go back to Caban. I'm more interested in Caban right now to back up the story. This is the police commissioner who has a twin brother, Al, that was shaking down. I don't know which brother was doing it, but they were shaking down building owners and various commercial entities in New York.
Okay, well, that's the allegation.
Right.
Jimmy Caban and Eddie Caban, the commissioner or former commissioner, are twin brothers.
Right.
Okay. Both of them are on the job. I worked with Eddie Caban in the radio car many times in the 40th precinct in the South Bronx.
Right.
Especially, he was a rookie. I had a few more years on the job at the time. This is early 90s. Good cop, made his share of good arrests. Naturally, no hint of any sort of corruption mentality. I'm not saying that he's guilty of that. Eddie went up through the ranks. Now you have to understand. This is a salient point, and if you're not from New York City, you don't really get this inside baseball stuff. For so many years, the Irish ran the job,
right,
from top to bottom. It was very political.
It goes back to the Civil War, Al. I mean,
exactly.
Yeah.
Most smart Irish American cops joined the Emerald Societies and things like this. It was always helpful. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just explaining it. Now, what you have in the last 10, 12 years, the Irish are out.
Yeah.
Hispanics, of which I'm part of that group too.
I hear you. I hear you.
Demographically are the majority of the job now. You don't get so many Irish American kids coming on the job. Eddie rode that wave. Okay.
Is he Puerto Rican? Is he Puerto Rican now?
Eddie's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
He's Puerto Rican, born here, like
he's a New Yorican.
Exactly, and that's something that New York Puerto Ricans wear proudly. If you call
I know.
So Eddie rode that wave, and when he got sworn in as commissioner, he did it on the steps of the 40th precinct, where we were radio car cops together. Okay, so he knows his roots, and I thought it was a great choice at the time. Now, I don't
just give us the boundaries of the 40th for people who don't know what the hell you're talking about the 40th.
Okay, it's the very, very southern tip of the Bronx. So if you come
does
over,
it go down to Hunts Point now?
Hunts Point is adjacent to us. That's the old Fort Apache.
Right. I just want to point out Hunts Point because it's the relatives of E. Howard Hunt that Hunts Point was named after. Go on.
There's something I didn't know.
Okay, brother.
Good one. So if you geographically look at the very, very southern tip of the Bronx, as you were coming over the Triborough Bridge, say from Queens,
right.
The first part of the Bronx you hit is the 40th. It has the highest concentration of housing projects in the whole city. It's a mess.
Yeah.
It used to be an all Irish and German neighborhood going back, and Jewish.
Jews too.
On some of the roughest streets, you could see the remnants of where there were synagogues.
Yeah.
It's in an immigrant neighborhood. Now, fast forward, Eddie gets picked to be police commissioner. I didn't think it was that unusual. I mean, Carrick got picked by Giuliani, and Carrick used to be Giuliani's driver, for God's sake. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's a Jersey boy like me. But evidently, Jimmy left the job under some clouds of suspicion. Okay. And basically left before they they told him, you know, we'll
Wait, what happened to Bernie? Didn't Bernie have some problems?
Bernie had other things. Taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in construction renovations.
Right.
In construction renovations on a condo he had.
Didn't he have a condo down by World Trade Center somewhere?
Yeah, yeah. And he had women going in and out of the place.
Stop it.
You know, overlooking the pile. Listen,
right.
This stuff is not nice. I don't want to mention any names, but you know what happens? These guys, they get blinded by the lights of Manhattan. You know, the whole seductiveness of you know, that power. And, you know, when they come up through the ranks like that, it's a good thing, but it's also can be a bad thing because they're not used to handling that sort of accolades. And
so what forced Caban out? Do you know, I know there was wiretapping inside in the police department by the feds, Al, or
the whole building was wired.
Bathroom too.
Yeah, they were having meetings out in the parking lot.
Right on.
You know, it's like the old scenes in Goodfellas. The guys are whispering like here, you know, and they wondered like somebody's coming up the street towards them, like who's that? Who's that? Who's this guy? You know what I mean? It was the paranoia overtaking the department.
Oh my God,
craziness!
Wow.
The feds have been all over this.
Out here too. Out here in L.A., the feds have been all over them out here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Caban is what? He's taking money or allegedly? What are the allegations?
The allegations for Jimmy, now I just want to stress it's an allegation. Down in the old meatpacking district on the west side, you've got a plethora of these clubs, okay?
Tell me about
it. They exist now where there's a lot of residential buildings now. Years ago, there was nothing down there but slaughterhouses. But now you got so many people living in those lofts where these clubs are, and they're blasting noise, you know, till 4 a.m.
You could still smell the meat, by the way, because I've been in those clubs and it still stinks of dead meat. But go on.
Never get rid of that smell.
Never get rid of that smell.
So anyway, about 10 years or so ago, they started this 311. They didn't want people calling 911 for noise complaints. So they wanted to do this alternative number 311, which basically goes into shit can. It goes to the precinct. It's the absolute lowest priority of calls. And, you know, people don't get any satisfaction from the police with these noise complaints. So a lot of these places got smart. They started hiring liaisons and things like that, or retired people who were connected to the department. So when and if the radio car did show up, they'd go out and schmooze and try to allay the thing and, you know, and at least address it in that way. But what happens is if you get somebody who is connected to the commissioner, let's just say, they can, you know, sugarcoat these things and direct enforcement other ways and things like that. It's not a hard thing to do.
Yeah,
you know?
Well, they took down those 2 fire department chiefs.
Well, this is it. You see, when you get to a certain level in the NYPD, and you've said this before, and it's an excellent point about these commissioners and things like this should not be appointed by the mayor. And
it's absurd. It's absurd. Yeah.
A lot of validity. Yeah. Because it's all political.
Yeah.
Get a call from Adams saying, listen, I want you to go easy over here. These guys are going to do it, or else if they don't do it,
well, what happened out here when they had the riots, Al, was the police were completely told to back off and stand down by the mayor.
Exactly.
It's like it was Garcetti back then, but it's like you're controlling a personal army.
It's exactly what it is. And it's not the cops and the sergeants and the lieutenants. It is coming from higher. I remember, geez, every New York City cop used to dread having to work the West Indian Day parade.
That's
shootings.
That's a bad one. That's a
open air drug use. We got told
Eastern Parkway. Is it still on Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn?
Yeah, a couple people got murdered there.
Well, they started eating them during the parade. I don't think that should be allowed. Al, come on.
Well, when we're assembling for the detail, and you got to understand for a parade like that, there's probably 2,000, 3,000 cops. We get told right there, there'll be no drug arrests today. You know, The first guy that brings in somebody for a drug arrest is going to have to answer to me. However, if that was a St. Patrick's Day parade,
bring him in.
Okay, bring him in, and they got told to bring him in. You know, it's all political theater.
Yeah, it's all political theater. Well, let's get to the mayor, because he's the guy who just got arrested this morning. So he had to turn himself in. He's got his own entourage, obviously. Yeah. Is this guy dead to rights? I mean, what is the future for this guy?
No. Well, listen, I'm talking to a bunch of guys today, still on the job and connected and this and that. And they're telling me, hey, Al,
he's going to beat it.
You are not going to be able to put this guy up on these charges and have an easy time going of it. The black community in New York, of which when they pick a jury, they're going to be well reprered.
Right.
Are not going to convict him for this.
They're not going to convict him. Yeah.
They feel like there's a bamboozle going on. The one thing that will hurt him is the straw donations. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think Adams will not resign. The race card's already in play. We know that. This is what goes on in big city politics. But he is going to stick it out because he knows he just needs what? Maybe one, maybe two people on that jury to just say, I don't care what he did. I'm nullifying this jury, and that's that.
Yeah.
And the feds, even though they got 90% conviction rates, in a lot of these
it's going to go down from this
98%.
98, I think. Yeah,
they're going to have a tough time because it's this is just the way it is. And when they pull that jury, they're coming from all over New York, Jamaica, the Bronx. It's not. Well,
they're even coming from Fort Greene, where this other guy lives, who's the public advocate. That maniac lives in a military base at Fort Greene. I don't know, what is this?
Fort Hamilton. Yeah,
Fort Hamilton. I'm sorry,
Fort Hamilton. He lives over there.
What the hell's going on? This guy lives in a military base.
It's a sweetheart deal. There are public apartments in there. Good. Yeah. That was one of the deals. The Army had to make with the city because they found that it was unused housing in Fort Hamilton, which is a really nice place.
Oh, I got you.
An officers club that I've been in there had a couple of over the years.
I've heard about that place.
Yeah.
What goes on in there? It's like an officers rec hall or something.
Well, it's an officers club. Eric could tell you. It's very, very nice setup. They have weddings in there, and if you're connected, you can get in there. Bar mitzvahs.
Yes.
Yeah, but you just can't walk off the street out of the projects and go in there and book the.
You can't go from Red Hook into there.
No.
Well, this guy's out and out Marxist. I mean, this guy's waiting. He's hoping Adams gets arrested and indicted and jailed. Because, I mean, I thought it would be the deputy mayor who succeeds the mayor, but not in New York. It's this public advocate.
They changed that back, I think, in the Dinkins days, the line of succession.
Let me tell you something. I was at did the first Toyota Comedy Festival with Alan King at Lincoln Center, and Dinkins was there, and he's showing me pictures of his kids, his grandchildren. I'm going like, this guy shouldn't be the mayor. He doesn't even know what's going on. He was playing tennis every day. This is the guy. Eric's put some photos up. This is the guy who is an anti-police, anti-everything. It's almost like we got our own George Floyd there in Brooklyn. Is this the base, Eric?
Yeah,
that's Fort Hamilton. Yeah. He lives in there for some reason.
Well, okay. Is it the same thing, Al? Just to confirm it, I live in Hampton, and Fort Monroe got turned over to the city. They I forgot the term for it, but the Army left it and said, okay, it's no longer a base, and so now Hampton's got this nice waterfront property, complete with a moat and a museum, everything else.
Not
really
here.
Nice housing, beach, everything.
Not here. They tried to deliver a pizza, and it was an illegal alien, and the military guard arrested him. This is not here, Eric. Yeah, the illegal alien for Uber.
That is an active Army base.
Okay. Yeah, it's quasi-active,
decommissioned. That's what it's looking for.
Decommissioned. Mark, Eric, Governor's Island is another one.
That's another one. Yeah, Governor's Island.
Over to the city, and the city has no idea what to do with it. That they got a museum that nobody goes to. The thing is sitting out there. It's probably the most prime piece of real estate in all of New York. New York City is a city on the water. You would never know it because people that run New York City, they've never owned a boat.
Right.
They've never viewed the city from any other place than Times Square and the theater district.
Right. I mean, for us, I mean, I grew up in Sheepshead Bay and Coney Island, so the water is part of your life.
Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, it is a city on the water, and people are boat people, and the real people.
You got to go outside though of
Manhattan. Yeah. Of downtown.
Yeah.
Okay, so Adams will probably stay on. Is this done by? I thought it's done by AOC via the Biden administration because of the illegal alien attempt to put a stop to it, Adams.
Without a doubt. I mean, they're saying this goes back to 2016 and they took no action on it.
Right.
They had no action. Listen, Eric Adams, I had one encounter with him. He was the desk lieutenant. And you got to understand, he was what they call a house mouse. He very rarely went out on the street. And I think he maybe has less than 5 collars in his whole career.
He worked his way up to captain, though, didn't he, Al? Or?
Yeah, but when he was, even when he was a street cop, he was a transit cop.
Right.
He had virtually no collars, which is almost impossible to do.
You could step on a collar and have it there and on the train.
People will jump on you and say, "Arrest me in New York," and they'll confess to the Kennedy assassination. 9/11.
Just to get into the jail system.
They'll claim they
okay. All right. Let me jump over here. What about what's going to happen with Diddy, who's down in Brooklyn and with no bail? What's going on with Diddy down there?
I talked to a retired corrections officer a couple of weeks ago, and I asked him specifically about Epstein.
Yeah.
And he said there was no way that could happen. Okay. No way that could happen.
The cameras breaking, the guards falling asleep, the guy being put into his cell. It's 12 moves.
And this guy's a federal correction guy, worked down in the MCC.
Yeah.
He says, Al, there's no way it could happen. So we'll know what is going on with Diddy, because now he says he wants to come out and spill the beans.
Diddy himself.
Yeah, he said that today. He said,
"Oh my God!"
He said he wants to come out and lay it all out there, and let the chips fall where they may.
Well, that may really seal his fate by the end of the week. He may be done by the next, Columbus Day. I mean, he's really pushing it.
All you got to do is poison his food.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the simplest thing. I mean, we talk about Trump's plane. Yeah. All these things are simple to do. With Trump's plane, I was talking to a guy in Intel not too long ago. He goes, Al, Trump has his own mechanics. Okay. Right. He hires them. They don't work on anybody else's plane but his plane. What happens if they poison the fuel, water down the fuel?
Yeah.
The truck pulls up, loads the plane up with fuel. It gets airborne. Next thing you know, it chokes on watery fuel.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's so many ways to do a plane. I mean, we covered that last week in the Hunt thing. Yeah. I mean, that was just crazy what they did. These people had cyanide in them. The pilots had cyanide in enough to kill a horse, said the coroner in Chicago. I mean, wow.
They're not even trying to hide it now.
No.
They're so brazen.
Yeah.
And, we're living in this world. And when Adams says there's other things at play, he's partially right. I mean, he's no babe in the woods.
Right. He got upgraded to some hotels by the Turks. Who knew the Turks were even running construction in New York? I had no idea.
Well, I was in Turkey last year. They're about as anti-American as you can get to.
Right.
Wow.
Wow. How they stay in NATO is beyond belief, right, Eric?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And by the way, one phrase for Diddy: "Dead man switch."
Dead man switch. Yeah.
I'm serious. He better have one.
Yeah. And Adams ran for mayor. He virtually had no funding. This is the thing. It was a poor man's campaign. And so, you want to speculate as to why he allegedly took this money. Well, that's why. I mean, you want to run for mayor. I don't care who you are. You could be Jesus. You better have about $25 million behind you, because you have to buy the media with that. to get the favorable editorials, to get the columnist to be told to write a, you know, a puff piece on you. That's the reality of it.
Just for the people at home who don't understand, the New York City has a straw matching fund for candidates that they will match money, some ratio, it's 10-to-1 or 4-to-1, or I forget what the ratio is, but they will match funds that you raise to level the playing field, right, Al? Is that the logic?
They have a formula for it. So as long as your donations are under a certain dollar amount,
right,
okay, you can get a matching fund. And evidently, this is what the government is alleging. And if they can prove that, well, you know, he's going to get convicted on that. But these other things, the upgrades,
no, that's absurd. The only thing is this matching fund, that he was laundering money through the matching fund. That's where he's most vulnerable, from what I understand. At this
and just
time.
one other thing, it evidently, when they seized his phones, I think back in November, they separated him from his NYPD detail, put him in his SUV, took his electronics. Took his electronics, but he didn't have his personal cell phone. Okay, so
I heard about that he changed his password right before.
Right.
Oh, I forgot.
They claimed he forgot the passcode.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. Well, I'll tell you this: what I was shocked, and one of the city councilmen came on last night on either Greg Kelly show, and he said that this is the first sitting mayor of New York ever to be indicted. And that includes Tammany Hall. I mean, it's kind of shocking.
Tweed.
Boss Tweed, going back. And the closest thing I can remember is William O'Dwyer, who Truman, he was about to be indicted in 1952, and he sent him to be the Mexican ambassador. Kind of like Biden did with Garcetti, sending him to India, because Garcetti was about to be indicted here for building trade stuff. And O'Dwyer ends up in Mexico, and who comes the first guy to visit him? E. Howard Hunt, the Mexican CIA station chief, says, "Welcome to Mexico."
Well, the chatter I was hearing this afternoon, I was talking to a couple of people. There's more to come. There may be a superseding indictment. Which surpasses the one they have now. My guess is at some point they pulled Eddie Caban in a room and said, "Listen, you know, you don't want to get wrapped up in this. You may want to think about being a cooperating witness." Evidently, they had some people on the inside, without a doubt.
Right.
And it's just a matter of, you know, what's going to stick. None of this upgrade stuff is going to stick.
Right.
The black constituency in New York do not want him to resign.
Right.
And I think we'll stick it out and take a gamble with the jury. If he goes to trial and it looks bad during the trial, he may cop to a plea.
Right.
That type of thing. But
he's staying on. I mean, there's going to be people yelling and screaming, though, Al. You know, AOC already calling for his resignation the day before he was indicted.
Well, she got a heads up.
She got a heads up that was coming, because she was the one who was essentially calling for his head to begin with. As soon as he turned against our precious illegal aliens, that was it. He was dead to her.
You know,
he was he's in a no-win situation, right?
Well, this is how they're going to squeeze him. But New Yorkers are, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, but New Yorkers are a lot more hip and savvy to you know, these sort of things. They know how to connect dots. They know when something just doesn't smell right, and on a lot of levels, you know, this looks completely political. It is not about Democrat or Republican. It is about, do you oppose what these people want to do in transforming America?
Right.
If you're going to put up any sort of roadblock,
they're going to crush you.
They're going to crush you, and I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
You know,
they're just coming at you. They're just going to come at you. You know, and I remember this day. He was going into the White House, and they wouldn't let him in, and he had to go back to New York. And they said, "No, you're not getting in here." It was a mayor's conference. They were meeting with Joe Biden, and they waited till he got all the way to D.C., Al, and they said, "You better go back to New York because you're not getting in here."
Yeah, I heard
he had already called out the border crisis before. He had already made his own grave, Al.
Yeah, without a doubt. And he wasn't allowed to speak at the DNC convention.
Right. I forgot about that. Oh, this poor guy. Now I'm
so
sorry for this guy. He's in a tough spot. He's in a tough. Al, thanks for coming by. We got to bring you back when there's an update on this case. Please come back, and we'll talk about what's going on in New York City politics. Because as New York goes, so goes the nation with these Marxist son of a bitches. Right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Good to see you, boys.
All right, Al. Thank you. Thank you, bro.
Thanks, man. All right. And for those who are curious about it, we do have an episode about Mayor Dwyer and
O'Dwyer.
William
O'Dwyer. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I don't remember the name of it, but go ahead with what you were saying.
No, I was just going to say we did it because of the similarities to the Garcetti case. The reason we did that, also O'Dwyer is tied into Hunt down in Mexico because he becomes ambassador in Mexico. And we mentioned O'Dwyer in the episodes on Hunt. He becomes the ambassador down there. And the reason he fled was because he was about to be indicted. And the replacement mayor that came in was a guy named Impellitteri. And my grandfather was his campaign manager in 1952. That's how I learned about this from my grandfather years ago, became the campaign manager to the mayor who replaced O'Dwyer in New York.
All right. And I dropped a link in the chat for anybody who wants to catch up or check out that show. It's a couple of years old.
Yeah, it's a couple of years old.
People haven't seen it.
Yeah. It's an oldie but a goodie, and Al has a lot of connections deep inside New York City. So I'm not there, so I don't have the amount of connections that Al Gonzalez does, both in police and surrounding areas.
Yeah, and that was a fun episode. Well, Garcetti finally did get to India, right?
Yeah, he finally did get to India. He was, by Chuck Grassley, accused him of perjury when he perjured himself during his hearings, and he finally did get to India. It took like 2 years, and that's where he is, hiding out, and the feds keep picking off one city councilman after another here. And eventually, somebody's going to roll on Garcetti.
Wow, it's amazing.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. And this is not the politicized feds. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Eric and I. This is the rank and file feds, the FBI, that's LA and New York, who don't have a political bone in their bodies, who are doing these things by the numbers, I believe. This is the Southern District of New York. This is obviously a politicized thing with Adams. But they've been picking off city councilmen quietly out here in LA for like 4 years now, 5 years, without any fanfare, no political bones in it. And it's nice to see, because other than that, urban governments, democratic governments, or whatever they are, can get away with murder, Eric.
Yeah.
There's no oversight.
It's funny. I like seeing some sort of, law enforcement actually happening with the FBI. But then I'm so creeped out. There's a whistleblower story, how the FBI is, persecuting everybody inside. I'm hoping that if Trump gets elected, that we have another church committee.
Yeah, we should have an intelligence church committee, not just on the FBI, but also the Central Intelligence Agency and the other agencies that you don't hear about.
Yeah,
Department of Homeland Security taking over from the Treasury Department, the Secret Service, quietly a number of years ago, probably led to all of these problems that we're now seeing. Yeah, under the Bush administration, after 9/11, I think, creating the Department of Homeland Security out of thin air. I remember that being created. I'm going like, man, this is happening quick. All of a sudden there was like 50,000 guys working for this new department. It was literally overnight. Very creepy, very creepy.
Yeah, and even the CIA director got shoved down a level.
Right. Yeah,
intelligence.
Right. I forgot about that. That's true. Yeah. Well, there's a lot to be done when and if he gets in, and if he survives long enough to get in there. Who knows? Now, you know, with everyone saying different things, my theory is all of these different government officials in the Democratic administration, I think, have been told to come up with their own dog whistles, because the Secretary of Commerce this week called for Trump to be extinguished. And I think that was her own terminology. Apparently that doesn't even faze anyone. I think all of the dog whistles will continue to come for the next 45 days from every single corner of the government. You know, Biden went on The View a couple of days ago, and Whoopi Goldberg was swatting an imaginary bug that she said was Trump. And then Biden slammed his hand down on the table like he was killing the bug. I mean, this is stuff out of Nazi Germany. He says, oh, here's the Secretary of Commerce, the former governor of Rhode Island.
Is the opposite. It's just another lie. Like, how did we get here? Let's extinguish him for good. We have an answer. We have a remarkably talented candidate who is sincere, who's pragmatic, who's open. Let's just get it done.
And let's just get it done. Let's just get the extinguishing done. Get it done. I don't know how you could misinterpret what she actually said there, because it's not about winning an election. It's not about outvoting him. It's not by getting the people out to vote to the polls. It's about extinguishing a man who has been attacked physically in 2 assassination attempts in the past 2.5 months.
Yeah, and I think somebody else is eliminating. You know,
they're coming up with their own. Yeah, I think the memo went out about the dog whistles, and they said use your own vernacular, whatever you decide to use. You know, personalize it. Her vernacular came out to use extinguish. That was her term. You're going to hear multiple variations on the same theme in the next 8 weeks. So keep your ears open for this, because I'm sure the psychos that are out there are keeping their ears open for this.
Wow. Well, okay. Before we,
hold on. Before we get to psychos, I just want to point out one psycho thing, because there was a psycho named Stephanie Lazarus for the LAPD who no, it's next Friday. I'm going to be on 2020 with David Muir, myself and
David Muir.
Yes, that's what I'm trying. I just got the email before the show. I did a story on the Art Cop, which is, Eric will tell you, is another episode. If you want to take a look at the Art Cop episode, which is
Art Detective. Art Detective, and you should see.
Which was a cat named, not unlike Al Gonzalez. He was a veteran cop who took over the art theft detail for LAPD. He was the only one-man art theft detail in the country, and Don Harisic was his name. And he was bringing on a partner to replace himself because he was going to retire. And I did a story on him for the LA Weekly when I was writing for the Weekly. And this woman shows up, and she's the one being trained by him to replace him. And her name was Stephanie Lazarus. And so I interviewed the two of them, took some photos, tape recordings, whatever, this interview. And after the interview, not too long afterwards, she was arrested by LAPD undercover agents who seized the straw from her drink, checked the DNA that was in a cold case for many years. And indeed, she was proven to be guilty for killing the new girlfriend of her ex-boyfriend in cold blood. And now her
Sherry Rasmussen, I think.
Yeah, Sherry Rasmussen, beautiful blonde, married this ex-boyfriend of hers, and she threatened her, physically went and confronted her a number of times, and then went to the condo where she lived and executed her. And after a hand-to-hand combat, brutal fight.
And it was like 20 years that she was wandering around free.
Yeah,
it was not a new.
Yeah, they kept promoting her in the department. LAPD had a court order in the early 80s to hire women, if you remember this, and they couldn't find that many women. So when they got her, they held on to her for dear life, promoted her up the ranks. She became a sergeant and was about to be in her own department before this happened. She would have been free and clear. Anyway, she was sentenced to 20 to life. I forget the actual sentence, but she's now up for parole. And the parole hearing is this coming Wednesday here at the Stanley Mosque. The family's going crazy. The media is going crazy. And even 2020 is going crazy because it's considered to be a little too early for a woman who should have gotten the electric chair. And anyway, so they interviewed me about the entire case. and that's going to air next Friday. I think it's on at 9 p.m. ABC National. If you guys want to tune in,
2020,
2020, the old magazine format. They've had a couple of good episodes so far. The season started last week, I think. We were talking about one of the episodes they just had on, but this one will air next Friday night on ABC TV, and it's oddly enough David Muir, the guy who hosted the debate. So you can't make this up. We'll see what happens. I'll be promoting the show, America's Untold Stories, on there, and it does get a lot of traffic, so I think it might help the show.
Let's hope, or they'll probably accidentally bleep that part out. Maybe like,
yeah. Well, it's in the Chiron. It's in the Chiron too. I made them insist putting it in the Chiron.
All right. Well, cool. We'll definitely grab that. But yeah, it's really despicable that she could get parole at all, especially because she did this brutal murder. Then she was free for, like a decade and a half or 2 decades.
Yeah.
And then she's only serving what, 12 to 15?
I think it's less than that. Yeah. I think it's even less than that.
It's ridiculous. So,
yeah.
I mean,
well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, the parole hearing is next Wednesday down here in Los Angeles, downtown. And they'll be covering that, and we'll see what her story is. I don't know why she should get out, but apparently she may be getting out. Her husband that she married is a cop on the force, so there's different forces going on here besides just her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, leave New York completely. I saw this earlier. This could be parody, but it's still funny.
Hi guys, I'm here with my girl to report some really intense, scary thing that's happened in downtown Manhattan. As you can see, there are all of these caution tapes up because there has been an earthquake and there's a slice in the middle of lower Manhattan. I don't know
if real?
There was an earthquake or
I think she might be parody. I hope she is.
Tectonic plates shifting underneath the ground. I'm not a Scientologist, a meteorologist.
I'm not a Scientologist.
Archaeologist, but
earthquake
this is so scary. I feel like this is just showing us what's to come. Anything like a line could just crack, split open in the middle of New York City. Everyone, please let me know if you felt the magnitude of an earthquake in New York last night. I sleep basically through everything. I could probably sleep through a tornado picking me up in my house, and I could wake up dead or in a dusty place somewhere. So let me know, and I just wanted to let you guys all know what's going on here in the Financial District.
That's funny. You got to give it to her.
I think it's parody, but the problem is that there are many like her in real life that are not the best and brightest, and she nailed that. I'm not a Scientologist.
That was funny. Very fun. All right, what else you got there in your hopper?
Oh God, we got so many different things. Well, let's go to another presidential candidate who's having some former presidential, quasi-presidential. I don't know what he is.
I don't know what he is.
Yeah, he's kind of both. He is a former, but a current, but a former, but a current. But he's got a problem keeping it in his pants.
Well, no, he did keep it in his pants. This was sex on. If you read it, this was on FaceTime, Eric. That's in keeping it in his pants. But maybe on his end. You're right.
I don't know if it's in his pants, but I don't know if they.
No, it wasn't in his pants because they're saying he had the greatest FaceTime sex of all time. I don't know what that means. I've never had FaceTime sex, but whatever it was, this was the greatest FaceTime sex of all time.
Yes, and what I love about it though is this came before what you had sent me. He's talking about suing.
Yeah, I heard that.
So it's her fault because she bombarded. No, I love this. She bombarded him with increasingly pornographic pics and videos.
Yeah, go on. Hold on. I would have buckled too at that point.
She is attractive, but
But
look at this.
She's a Jersey girl.
Gavin DeBecker is standing up for him, is cracking me up because he's like, supposedly he blocked her number and then she would beg to be unblocked, and so she would send more pictures. And
Been there.
Here's DeBecker. He says this had nothing to do with romance. He was being chased by Prawn.
Oh, well, not the new article says the opposite.
Well, yeah, here we go. He unblocked her for that conversation, but later that night she sent a provocative picture prompting him to block her again, and then saying that it's harder and harder for him to ignore.
He doesn't need Debecca.
He found difficult to resist.
Yeah, he doesn't need Debecca. He needs the blocker. Go on.
Yeah.
The story
Cheryl's not going to be a happy camper.
The story I read was he insisted that the interview be done on a hike, and he said the only time Cheryl likes to hike is in a shopping mall. And she went on the hike with him, and she was in a secluded area when he grabbed her by her arm and tried to pull her in, and she resisted and said, you know, I'm engaged to my boyfriend of 10 years, the infamous Ryan Lizza. I don't know if you realize that's her fiance, Eric, the guy from CNN. All of these people are commingling together.
Inbred, almost.
Yeah. But I don't know what the deal is. It seems to be a lot of smoke, Hunley.
Oh, yeah. That's the guy's a disaster. I mean, there's so many problems.
Listen, sex addiction is one of the tough ones. I mean, it really is, because it's kind of like food addiction, because their take is you have to have sex. And it's like the people who are in OA have to eat. And it's like with Alcoholics Anonymous, you just don't drink. It's not like you have to drink. But in these other 12-step programs, they feel that you have to, not feel it, it's fact. I mean, you have to eat. And the sex thing is kind of nebulous, because there's plenty of people don't have sex. So, but they say that if you're in a primary relationship, it's okay. But if you go outside of the sex addiction is going to kick in. So they have their own kind of rules and regulations of those different programs, and are not exactly the same as AA.
Well, that would make sense, I think. Like eating would be the hardest for obvious reasons, because you have to eat no matter what. And then the sex, I can see that. And then the drinking, I think, might be harder than cocaine, because there's so much social drinking that you're exposed to.
Absolutely. I said for years, if there were billboards on the 101 with chicks in bikinis with syringes, there would be more junkies in America. But what you have is chicks in bikinis with a can of beer. If you follow my logic, it's kind of a joke, but there is some truth to it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. This is something that I grew up with. And so
goats?
Sad to see.
Goats?
Yeah, Goats and Kmart.
Oh, what? Oh, they're done? Kmart's done?
They're closing the last.
Oh my God, I love Kmart.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, when I grew up, it's in the Hamptons in Bridgehampton, New York. Last store is shut down.
Wow.
And
you know, they had one right over here in LA up until recently. I don't know if it's closed or open, but I guess that one closed too.
Yeah, the whole chain. And I mean, and Kmart merged with Sears.
Oh, and Sears left also.
Well, Sears is gone too. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like a.
When I was growing up, it was Montgomery Ward and Sears, and that's it. Those were the two. I don't remember the Kmart was coming on the scene, but the two big ones was Sears and Monkey Ward's.
Well, I think it was a case of Kmart was a Midwest thing and it expanded. It's funny because Kmart and Walmart sort of came on the scene, I think, at the same time, but Kmart was urban, Walmart was more rural, and then they just kind of overlapped, and Walmart has obviously come out ahead.
Oh, it's sad.
But yeah, there's Monkey Ward, and there's also Woolworth. I don't know if you have.
Oh, that. Woolworth, of course. Yeah, the 5 and dime. Yeah, but they didn't have the type of things that Montgomery Ward's and Sears had. You can go in there and get tires. You couldn't do that at Woolworth.
Oh, yeah, the Sears catalog was the internet before the internet.
Yeah, I mean, you could get cocaine in the mail from the Sears catalog. I'm serious, and a syringe kit. And a syringe kit.
In the 1800s, yeah.
Even in the 1900s. In the 1920s.
Well, you could get a house.
You can get a house kit. Yeah, you can get a house kit. Yeah.
And I remembered ordering as a kid, like I got a remote control car from the Sears catalog.
Whoa.
Oh, God, it was the longest damn wait, though, because we had to wait for it to actually get to the distribution center. And it's like, I think it took like 2 weeks.
That
was like 4 years.
Wow. That was the Amazon. Was that catalog? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There was nothing bigger than that.
Wow. It was a big catalog. I mean, Montgomery Ward had a catalog too. It wasn't like the Sears catalog.
Sure. I think Sears is first, though, and just probably the most well-known.
Oh, I'll tell you what's the most well-known was the fact that as the FDR in World War II was starting to convert industry into army factories to make munitions and arms, there was one guy who held out, and that was the chairman of the board of Montgomery Ward in Chicago. And he sent U.S. military to lift him up by his chair and carry him out of the building, FDR. And there's a famous photo of him sitting in his chair. If you look around on the internet, you'll find it immediately, of the Army soldiers carrying out the CEO of Montgomery Ward in his chair. And that was because he told FDR to go fuck himself. He wasn't converting his factory for the war effort. A great moment in American history, unknown, of course, untold. But yeah, the chairman of the board of Montgomery Ward.
Wow. Oh,
yeah. Right?
Yeah, I found it. I'm trying to.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, they're lifting him up and they're carrying him out of the building. I remember this from 30 years ago.
Wow. It's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
All right. Yeah. Hold on. I found the image.
Okay.
No, I just, for some reason, it wasn't pulling up well, but that is.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. There it is. I see you thought I was crazy, right? Look at that.
No. I'm not crazy.
I mean, this is as iconic, this photo. Yeah, there it is. Is it the CEO of Montgomery Ward? Yeah. Yeah, there he is. Yeah. Montgomery Ward, yeah.
This is Montgomery Ward.
Yeah.
This is they seized the whole killers. That's the chairman.
Yeah,
that was the chairman.
That's what I said. Sewell Avery. This is as iconic a photo as the Army arresting General Walker in Oxford, Mississippi, with the bayonets surrounding General Walker, and he's just standing there smoking a cigarette, which was another one of these iconic government military photos of them arresting people, which could be its own book. You know, Walker is then sent to Springfield, Missouri, to the place that they sent Bados from the Hunt story last week, the psychiatric hospital where he was given the Minnesota multiphasic personality exam that he said, this is insane. And I'm not insane. I don't eat my own feces, which was question 118 or something.
Not De Niro, though. Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Yeah, sorry. So he was eventually released, Walker. But the Walker photo was as iconic to me as that photo.
Yeah, I mean, that is wild. That is wild. All right. Speaking of, well, this isn't speaking of anything, but your state raised the minimum wage, and how's that working out?
It's so sad, Hunley, because 5,400 jobs went out the window. He immediately went on Fox denouncing it, saying it wasn't true. Governor Newsom, dude, this guy's he's a professional liar. I mean, these numbers are quite easily verifiable. 6 months since Governor Newsom's $20 per hour fast food restaurant minimum wage law went into effect, California's fast food industry job loss is now down 5,416 jobs since January. Companies were already sounding the alarm about the new 25% wage hike, 25% wage hike in Assembly Bill 1228, $20 fast food minimum wage even before implementation. But just before the new numbers could drop, Governor Newsom rushed out an op-ed for Fox News claiming this modest law, quote unquote, was being mischaracterized by, quote, conservatives and their enablers in the media. The millions of conservative media. Yeah, dude, when Democratic liberals are blaming the media, you might want to check your wallet, because that's crazy.
Well, it's scary to me that these freaking idiots, they actually fall for that crap.
Absolutely. He's good at it. He's very good at it.
Yeah.
Part of the reason it became a one-party state was it's a miniature model of what's going on nationally. They flooded the state with illegal aliens over the past 15 to 20 years. They made it into a one-party Democratic state because the people who allowed them to stay here allowed them to vote for them. They gave them all the benefits. They have now this is a simple summation of what's going on, but totally true. They've now nationalized the same thing that made California a one-party state and made it into a Marxist state of 40 million people. They will vote Democratic until their legs fall off from diabetes. But I don't know if you saw this story with the Bay Area activists going into Nevada, Eric. This one,
no,
it might be a good follow-up. Which is what I recommended for our people to sign up with the Trump Force 47 and go into the battleground states. Last week, Seed the Vote sent their paid volunteers to Nevada in droves to Democratic Party headquarters in Washoe County to make calls and knock on doors throughout Reno, Nevada, to try to flip Nevada into a permanent progressive blue state. A recent report from CBS News that a progressive nonprofit out of the Bay Area sent their communist sympathizing activists to Nevada to canvass on behalf of Nevada Democrats and the Harris Walz campaign. Seed the Vote sent more than 1,000 physical volunteers. The organization is made up of 3,000 volunteers from the Bay Area. The plan is to canvass in 5 swing states: Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. This is exactly what I've been calling for 3 months on this channel. This Seed the Vote is a very far left organization. It's a project of everyday people, which I think is a George Soros thing. Influence Watch reveals that the Chinese Progressive Association aligns with the values of the Revolutionary Communist Group, including the Chinese Communist Party. That's who's doing this, folks, and the money's coming out of China. And regardless of that, these kids that are canvassing in that picture do not know anything about what I've been telling you. They're the ones going door to door trying to flip Nevada.
Well, I'm good.
We got to do the same thing. I mean, I'm sorry to say that you have to get off your couch. I know it's brutal. I know it's harsh. They're going to bury us. They're going to bury us until we get off our fat asses and do the same thing going door to door. I know it's uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong. I've done it. But it's got to be done to match this force of an army that the chinks are sending out to kill us. So, I mean, either to kill us politically or, look, finally, Eric, last night they began to open the floodgates against Tim Walz as China Tim. Which was kind of interesting that it took so long. But last night, the Newsmax shows began to go after Walz, who has been missing for the past week or so. No one seems to know where he is. But, they had an interesting line. He's been to China 30 times. 30 times he's been to China, more than 30 times. And somebody said, I bet it's more times than he's actually been to Wisconsin, a neighboring state. Have you been anywhere 30 times in your life? Just think about that. Think about a place. No. But I'm talking about a place, a destination outside of your own area of living. I'm not talking about going down the street. I'm talking about leaving.
No, I know. I get it.
Think about it. Leaving Virginia, leaving Arizona 30 freaking times.
Yeah, not even like to visit family. Like when my parents were in Tucson, I didn't even go there.
Right, me too. But to leave the United States of America 30 times, there are people who never, their whole lifetime, and I don't mean that as a negative mark. There are people who never left Brooklyn to go to Manhattan. If you watch, John Travolta in the Bee Gees movie. The situation of leaving the United States 30 times. I haven't even left the United States 30 times. I don't think, but maybe in my life.
I mean, unless you go down to Nogales a lot from Tucson. That's about the closest I can think of.
Right.
But flying overseas, that's
to the same communist country 30 times. Yeah. I mean, it's inexcusable, inexplicable, and totally insane. The fact that this guy is being taken as a legitimate vice presidential candidate, and no one finds this except, I hope, that J.D. Vance will just freaking hammer him, saying what I've been saying and mocking him for going to a communist regime. I mean, Bernie Sanders went a couple of times to Moscow. Okay, people went crazy over that. He had his wedding or his anniversary in Moscow. This guy's gone 30 times. He speaks fluent Chinese. Give me a break. Who is this guy, Hunley? Who the fuck is this guy?
China Tim.
Wow. Holy shit. If the FBI does not open up an investigation right now into the background of this guy going to interview him, specifically with 302s in hand, to find out who you spoke to, how many times you went, where you stayed, how much you were paid, who did you bring? Give me a fucking break. Where is the FBI on this thing? If he wasn't running for vice president, they should do it. If he wasn't running, it should be done. 30 times to communist China?
Totally agree. And one thing you need before you travel to communist China, Mark,
which is what? What do I need?
You need to get some coffee and make sure that
I got to stay up and watch the whole flight.
Yeah, alert. You got to be aware.
You got to be sharp.
The best coffee out there for getting the stories together, what we're doing, is America's Untold Story Supreme Breakfast Blend. But don't take my word for it. Here's the latest review that just got sent in today. A Robert R. has posted about this, and he said, comment, I rarely drank coffee the last few years without cream. I thought my taste buds were changing. The previous 50 years, I drank it black mostly. I now drink it always black using your blend. That's what I've been talking about.
Right.
You don't need to embellish it. You could just drink it black. It's a really rich, lush, wonderful flavored coffee. And I hope you guys definitely check it out. It will help us out, and it helps a veteran business.
Well, that was Robert Redfield, the former head of the CDC, who is now endorsed RFK, oddly enough. This is a guy involved. You know this? The former head of the CDC has now come out backing RFK 100%.
Oh, that's right. He's shocked. He shocked everybody because RFK kind of was like, wait a minute.
So was I.
I was damn near writing about that guy in the Fauci book.
He's in the Fauci book. Yeah.
And that's a very interesting.
Are they all afraid of prosecution at this point, and they're trying to save their own necks?
It could be. Maybe he's volunteering, saying, I've got info. I can testify.
I mean, Zuckerberg has kind of changed with the wind. I mean, this attack by Trump on Google yesterday is scary.
I don't know why. It's not.
I mean, why is he saying what's better was the one on Nancy Pelosi with her visa.
But that's legit.
I mean, that was totally fair game. Totally fair game. She apparently cashed in her Visa stock with some sort of insider trading the day before it tanked. She made herself $500,000 or some amount that Trump said. He said she should be prosecuted and
or investigated. I mean,
well, he said prosecuted. He didn't say investigated, to quote him. And then today he's saying the same thing about Google, that he's going to prosecute them when he's reelected. I mean, you talk about waving a red flag at a bull, Eric.
One, it's also, I mean, it's like it is waving a red flag at a bull, but it also doesn't look good on his part because it gives that vibe of a strong man.
Why say this? I don't know how it helps him when he could quietly do it when he gets into power and not have any fanfare about it. There's no reason to make a public announcement so they could start burning all their documents, for Christ's sakes. The second one, the meeting with Zelensky, Eric and I talked about this before the show. I don't know what this is about. Like, why is he meeting with Zelensky? I mean, they're going to throw the Hatch Act at him. You know, he met with Netanyahu, I think, Eric, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is he met with Netanyahu, and honestly, the optics on it are world leaders are still coming to see him.
I get it. Right.
It's so obvious that the current administration is not legitimate in his mind.
Right.
He's dancing on it, but technically, it's done a lot.
I agree. I mean, but so was General Flynn, and look what happened to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, again, it's almost like he's daring them to do something to him.
Well, speaking of associations, there's been a lot about Laura Loomer and Trump, and she released this article about
Friday evening and on Saturday, CNN aired a number of segments that briefly showed an image of former President Donald Trump and Laura Loomer taken from social media. On review, this image had been digitally altered by a third party, and should not have been included. We regret the error.
Yeah, they altered them. They altered them, and then issued an apology, and it's her, like, you know, close up with it looks so weird that she's like rubbing up against Trump, I think, in the little altered document that they talk about. I think Loomer's threatening to sue them over this, from what I...
Well, you know, CNN has done this shit before.
Yeah.
Remember when Rogan came out and talked about COVID and the course that he took, and they put the picture and they ran a filter on his video that made him look like really yellowish.
Oh, that's right.
Remember that shit?
You know, I remember that. And I also remember that Rogan came out this morning saying if Kamala Harris wins, he's fucked in terms of censorship and destruction of free speech. I mean, God forbid he should ever endorse or have Trump on the show. I know that's a bridge too far for this fat bastard. I mean, it's so ridiculous. I mean, what is wrong with having this guy on your show? It's ridiculous. I mean, I suggested to what's her name? Stephanie is RFK Jr.'s press secretary, that RFK be the bridge to bring him on, and maybe he can have a triple mega show with Tulsi, RFK Jr., and Trump. There's a lot of ways to. That's what I said.
And they could even do it as a combo where where RFK and Tulsi are there for 2 hours, and then Trump wanders in for the last hour.
A lot of ways to skin that cat. A lot of ways to skin that cat. But the cat's got to be skinned. Otherwise, these Haitians are going to get all over it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the Haitians are suing. The Haitians went in and charged Trump and Vance with criminal mischief in going after them in Springfield, Ohio. This is a new one.
Yeah, but there's more to that story.
Oh, what do you have?
We're going right back to Laura Loomer, it appears.
Okay, Loomer.
The individual in charge of that organization is suing Trump?
Yeah.
Well, here we go. Kamala Harris visited the home, and I guess it's Subdo Chandra, who filed the criminal charges against President Trump and J.D. Vance for Haitian migrants. This lawyer hired by them is friends with Kamala Harris, hosted her at his house, refers to Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Imhoff, as his brother-in-law.
Oh my God, this is worse than I even imagined. I'm gonna have to order. I'm gonna have to order some cat after this and just chow down. I mean, this is really dark. This is really dark. I mean, this is going nowhere. But the tentacles of it, the connection, shows you how brazenly corrupt they are with these people.
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously shocking. But,
wow.
You know, what's that I like to say? Shocking, but not surprising. I mean, over and over and over and over.
Well, I quote Lenny Bruce: "It's so corrupt, it's thrilling." You know, it's just entertaining. It's so corrupt.
For sure. Now, you know what? I deliberately wanted to bring this up. Occasionally, I come up with a story that is just good knowledge.
Okay.
For people to have. And my friend Andrew Wong wrote about this. I had never heard of this scam, and I wanted to share it because I could easily have been suckered by it, and others. There's this scam going on here, and it is called brushing. And what it is people will put an Amazon package on your porch with like a misaddress or something, or you can't tell where it came from. And if you scan the QR code leads into phishing and hacking your devices.
Wait. Why would I scan the QR code? I would open the box and just take out what was in there.
Because you're like, what is this? And then you might scan a label in there or what have you. What I'm trying to say is that this setup
that's weird.
Of putting an extra, well, you know, you have the porch pirates.
Right. That I understand. Porch pirates.
This is the reverse of it. So here we go. Picture this. You come home to a package on your doorstep that you didn't order. There's no return address or indication of who sent it, just your name and address prominently displayed.
I guess you could scan it. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And this is the
I don't understand how QR codes work anyway, but again, so I mean, don't count me in this, but I could see your point. It's quite a valid point.
Well, if they label it just right, you're like, well, I don't know. Oh, there's a code. Maybe that'll tell me the return address.
Yeah, right.
And then boom, you know, you've now been infected.
Wow.
And it's easy because I think about packages that, you know, get put on my porch and the neighbor or something is like, you know, what's this? I could see being suckered by that. Why would somebody send you something?
Yeah,
there you go.
That's dark. I don't know if you got this one up in Rensselaer County, Eric. This case up there, I think it's very important, of voter fraud. Officials found not guilty. 2 Republican officials found not guilty immediately in a jury trial up in Rensselaer County in upstate New York for voter fraud. The feds went after these 2 guys with they're going to lower their conviction rate that you mentioned earlier, because the jury delivered their verdict less than 2 days of deliberations in a case that federal prosecutors and FBI had taken more than a year to build. The investigation included interviews with dozens of county employees, information gleaned from mobile phones, blah, blah, blah. The 3 defendants in the case, County Executive Steve McLaughlin, Richard Christ, a longtime political operative, and the county's Director of Operations, James Gordon. Director of the county's Bureau of Central Services, Leslie Wallace. This is the top of the Republican Party of Rensselaer County, which, to people don't know, is upstate New York. Albany County, which is the capital of New York State. They were acquitted of a single charge of conspiracy to violate the constitutional rights of voters by using their official positions to induct county employees to sign voter registration absentee ballot applications to sway the 2021 primary and the general elections. Gordon was also acquitted of witness tampering. They were facing 10 years in prison. The defense argued throughout the case that the 3 defendants could not have coerced any employees to sign any ballot paperwork because they lacked the written authority to hire or fire anyone. Instead, the defense asserted the defendants were merely asking employees for friendly favors to support their legal political campaign. In other words, they didn't have the power to hire or fire. So they said, we're voting for this group and we'd like you to consider voting for this group, which was a mere suggestion. They weren't employed by them. And the jury, within 2 days, returned a verdict destroying the feds in this phony voter fraud case against Republicans, which I thought was an important story.
Yeah, because I remember that as saying, yes, sir, in fact, was some voter fraud. It was Republicans.
Right. And this is where it comes from. Yeah, this is where it comes from. It's a very interesting case. It was under the radar, so I thought we'd bring it up because it's kind of out of the beltway up in upstate New York.
No, definitely. All right, well, I want to pay some bills here. Pamela Clifton says, happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday to you, Pamela. And then Dick Dickerson's back with 10 America's Untold Stories memberships.
I just call him Big Dick. I don't know what you call
him. Dickerson, that's fine by me. Mike Schemmel is a new member himself. And then Pew Pew is here. And also 10 memberships. So the war is back. They're at it again.
These guys, they respect each other but there is a competitive nature to this, right?
That's true. And look at this. We have Sean Lucan as well.
Lucan, as we call him, Lucan the Wolf Boy, trying to get into the major leagues here with these 10.
That's true. But, I appreciate all efforts and I'm happy to see it. Isle of Bastogne. What do you think of Kamala plan of letting 13,000 plus illegals guilty of homicide? Yes. Into the country to free up housing for first-time home buyers.
Wait. I don't understand the question. Specific.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the question?
I think that what she's talking about is
13,000 who happen to be convicted of murder in the whole group.
I think we're rolling stories together here.
Oh, okay.
I've got the story right here. It's the this has been breaking today. 15,000 illegal immigrants in the U.S. are accused of murder.
I got
She finally decided to visit the border.
Today, I think this morning, in Arizona. That's Steve Mnuchin, by the way, who made his bones on Fox Local here in L.A. and was Mnuchin. Steve Mnuchin, is that the guy? Mnuchin, I forget the guy's name. Not Mnuchin, because he was a Treasury guy.
Right. Okay.
Right. But it's Steve Mnuchin, something like that. And he got promoted up he covers the border better than anyone. This guy has lived down there for 4 years. But I think she's down there now, Eric, right?
Yeah, apparently she finally found a way. I mean, remember she famously said, they were like, why don't you go to the border? The borders are, I haven't been to Europe either. Remember that answer?
Well, China Tim could say the same thing because he just goes to China. Now, Mark Kelly, the astronaut, is with her. So there could be some blast off information coming from this storyline.
Could be. Could be. All right. Carlos Sainz, new member. Thank you. Scott Bimbo had a Lana Del CD stuck in the tractor. Dad insisted I get out. He passed away with Frankie Lane stuck, haven't removed. Know all the words of Rawhide.
That's funny. You know, it's some of the songs are very addictive. She's quite addictive.
Talented.
Yeah, very talented woman. Now gone to me for the rest of my life. Sad but true. You have to move on at some point, but it's relatively new.
This is serious because Mark was trying to find that Waffle House and it was
if I would have found that Waffle House, I would have stayed in there. It's 24 hours, so I could have just stayed there. She could never have kicked me out of the Waffle House.
Exactly. He'd be there waiting for her on the next shift.
Yeah. First of all, I just want to take the opportunity to remind people of Trump Force 47, I think is .com. It's the volunteer organization to help get out in the field and do this stuff that we've been discussing. But go on.
Yep. Actually, I'll put a link in the description while we're talking. To Sea Wave Drive, Padres make triple play to clinch a playoff spot.
One of the most shocking things I've ever seen. It wasn't just a triple play. It was a game-ending triple play, 5-4-3, if people know what I'm talking about, from Manny to second to first, to end the game with two guys on and Ohtani in the on-deck circle. But the Dodgers came back last night to clinch the division so they can go fuck themselves. So that story has gone away. That's from the night before. Last night, they won the division. So they beat the Padres last night.
So where are you going to go watch them play?
Okay, well, we don't know because they're not playing till next Saturday because they get the bye. So they're literally the playoffs start next Saturday night.
Isn't that bad news? Because I remember you complaining about them having a bye before.
Yeah, but you know, Freddie Freeman twisted his ankle last night. He came to this champagne thing in the locker room in a boot with crutches. I mean, I almost had a heart attack. But Ohtani, it's either this team's going to win on Ohtani's back. And I know Barnes was asking me about the Dodgers' chances. It's all about Ohtani. Right now, he's the hottest hitter in the history of the world. I've never seen anything quite like it. He's like 18 out of 22 at bats. He's like getting hits. It's like crazy. But they'll go as far as Ohtani takes them. Let me just sum that up for people betting at home.
Barnes is betting, so that's why he's
Barnes. If you bet on Ohtani, that's the only way you're going to make money.
All right, Charlie Two Hands. I wonder if these idiots consider that all the money in the world won't do them any good if civilization is vaporized.
No, they don't even. They think he's again, Charlie. They think he's bluffing. They're willing to believe that he's bluffing. Why they need to gamble so much of the fate of the entire earth to where they could be a 50-50 shot, whether he's bluffing or not. The stakes aren't high enough to go that route. I mean, it just makes no sense. I mean, if he was fighting in Mexico, I'd say, all right, well, it's an existential threat to us, so we have to push him to the limit. But the stakes are so enormous, and the war is so minimal as to be a border skirmish. That's what the war in Ukraine is. It's a border skirmish. I know a lot of people have been killed, but border skirmishes. Remember when we were growing up, India versus Pakistan, Eric, that war went on for years.
Still goes on.
Still goes on.
It flares up from time to time.
Yeah. Right. And they both have nuclear weapons. So, I mean, once they went nuclear, it kind of calmed down. But nevertheless, I mean, these stakes are nowhere near for us to be anywhere near a nuclear red alert. I mean, wow.
And well, what worries me is signals to China and Taiwan, because that's the nightmare one.
Well, also the running out of the Biden clock may signal people to make moves before Sleepy Joe leaves office, or if this chick comes in, then it's just on for 4 years. I mean, they're not going to give a shit what she does. I mean, she's never seen a military operation in her life, Eric, right? I mean, can you remember a time when this woman may have seen anything military?
She prosecuted drug dealers from Mexico.
No, I know. I'm just talking about she went to that. Did she go to that funeral thing from Afghanistan with him? I mean, no. Other than some mere ceremonial thing, I don't visually see her involved with the military anywhere in her career.
No, she's not at all.
Let me ask you something. Could JFK and Tulsi Gabbard be a ticket in the future?
RFK?
I'm sorry, RFK and Tulsi Gabbard. They seem to be touring together and really doing a good job.
Well, I think that they're very much aligned because Tulsi's, a Democrat. He's a Democrat. They're both from that side, but pragmatic. They're kind of like that little lost Democrat.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, they go well together. Sure.
It just hit me the other night. I thought they may become a team at some point because
I'm still voting Tulsi for Secretary of State. That's my pick.
Right. I don't think either one of them is going to take a job in the administration, to be honest with you. I think they're both going to stay free and loose.
Could be.
They don't want jobs. I don't think these types of people actually want a job.
I don't know. I'm going to say Tulsi, keep in mind, she's been in the Guard her entire career. So even in Congress, she was going to drills.
Yeah.
With the National Guard. That's not a person who doesn't work.
No. I agree. That's why I thought of her as the anti-Kamala Harris, because she's militarily linked. Kamala Harris has no military links whatsoever. You know what I mean? And they're just polar opposites.
Even American links.
Right. They're polar opposites of each other.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. For sure. But both technically were Democrats up until 2 minutes ago. I don't know if Tulsi has left the party.
Well, yes, she left the party because Tulsi famously got on the map because she's the one who outed Donna Brazile and the Hillary Clinton connection.
That's not good. That's not
because she was the co-chair of the Democratic National Convention. Or whatever.
That's not good. Well, Hunley mentioned that we may have a need for subscribers. So I wanted to take this opportunity to ask you to subscribe to the channel. I know it's brutally harsh that we even ask people for anything. Again, this is free. I know it sounds embarrassing to ask someone to do a free thing and them being resistant to it for conspiratorial reasons or whatever mumbo jumbo you can come up with. But all the other channels have subscribers. And I was watching Jordan Peterson interviewing RFK, and he said this is a second part of a two-part interview. First part was taken down by YouTube, so it doesn't exist any longer. And he says, hopefully this one will last a little longer. And I didn't realize, or I forgot, that YouTube had nuked the original RFK Jordan Peterson interview. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of weird. So
they didn't nuke only Jordan Peterson RFK. They nuked multiple RFK interviews at the same time. I think, like Theo Vaughn even. They went back like 2 years on interviews and stuff and memory hold them.
Wow, man, that is dark. And that's why we need subscribers, because if we have a lot of subscribers, we might have a little bit more muscle, not get pushed around. But maybe after Trump wins, we may not get pushed around. I don't really know. I mean, if he's going after Google, be the greatest day of Hunley's and mine life if he could do something to them. But in the meantime, we have to, like every other channel, ask you to subscribe for free. It sounds like the weakest sales pitch of all time to ask someone to subscribe for free. But nevertheless, the locals. We are.
Asking is on his head, not in his hand, but here it is.
Right, because there's no money involved. That's why it's kind of preposterous, but yet the numbers drive the crazy train. So if you do subscribe, and if you do like hear a bell in the back of your mind, it is not a bell. It really isn't. It's something that Google it's your conscience reminding you to subscribe. So if you hear something that sounds like, don't even think about it. Just go and subscribe to the channel. You will feel better for it. You will at the end of the day. And Hunley could tell you more about unstructured.locals.com.
Okay, Locals is where everything cool is. Technically, we can say words. We don't have to go prawn like I did earlier. And you're going, what? Are you talking about seafood? What are you talking about, Eric? And it's like, no, I'm mixing up words so we don't say it. And we say other words too that that involve self-deletion or whatever, because we can't say those words. And there's many other words that we could say on Locals, and you can be a member there for free. And
again, this is a pitch for a free item. Yeah, go on.
It is, but you can also, there's an upsell. So that one is we'll call it a freemium.
Freemium. I like that. That's a good word, a freemium.
Yeah, it's standard in the software industry, but okay. Freemium is the product is free, but there's premium features if you want more. So if you like it, you say, hey, I love this Locals. I really want to support these guys. We'll sign up for a membership for a year, $70 for a year. And then you will get the other material, because we do have some.
Such as what are you going to get?
Well, you get the Oswald audio drama.
This is the greatest thing Hunley's ever done in his life. He doesn't even realize it. No, I'm serious. This audio drama, which has taken my 5 Oswald screenplays, which is one project of 10 hours, and turning them into an audio screen drama, is worth the $70. I guarantee you, because you actually get the script with it, and you can follow along as Oswald, as factually as I humanly could do. It took me 4 years to do this project, and I turned down a deal with Doubleday or a British company to do the audio version of this, so we could do it internally. I forgot the name of it was a big
Macmillan.
It was Macmillan Books. Yeah, Macmillan Books wanted to take the material and turn it into an audio drama, and I turned them down so we could control the content and do it ourselves. It's $70 for the whole year, but with the $70, you get this plus a million other secret documents, a million other PDFs, and stuff of that nature. But this is worth the price of admission. I guarantee you, you will flip the fuck out if you read the script and listen to this complete radio, audio, AI drama that Eric and people have created for the channel, not for the channel, but for Locals. It's well worth the money. You're not going to get it by just looking around for free, but like Eric said, there's plenty of stuff there for free.
But there's Locals. A lot for free. I mean, that was a deliberate choice. And there are communities out there where every single thing. But in our community, I'd say 85 to 90% of content is available to everybody for all free members. You don't have to. We're not just trying to upsell every single thing. Whatever, we want it to be a good community no matter what.
Yeah, and I just want people to read my work and listen to it. So it's just a creative thing for me. The $70 isn't going to change my life, but I'm proud of the work itself, and people who have heard it and listened to the show really freaking enjoyed it, which is great. We couldn't make it into a TV series because of political reasons and financial reasons, and Oliver Stone and I tried and went around as strongly as we could for over a year and a half in Hollywood trying to get this made, all different networks, but it wasn't fit for the theater because it's 10 hours. So the only thing we could do was television, and there were limitations to that. Many of them, I believe, were political. But nevertheless, it's completely intact, uncensored, undiluted in its original form on Locals. And I strongly recommend that if you can afford $70 a year, not a week, not a month, a year, that alone is worth the price of admission.
All right. Well, we got a lot of super chats in here too. Fletcher Boy, Adams made somebody in DC mad. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the person she made mad originally was not the Biden administration. I think it was AOC. I think this started out locally and then went nationally and federally. I think it was her. I mean, her district has more illegal aliens than any district in New York City.
I can believe it. Scott Bimbo, Eric should talk more. He is a smart fellow.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Tony Holman's a new member. Thank you. Pamela Clifton. Mark,
she's back.
Give David Muir the business.
No, there's no business to give. I'm not talking to David Muir. I've already done the segment, so there is no business. I just find it ironic that he's the host.
Yeah.
There's a producer. I was interviewed by a producer.
And Mark will be cut in and out.
I'm cutting it.
Blah.
I'm cutting it out. I'll probably end up 30 seconds in the entire 2 hours.
We'll find out. Jonathan G94. I'd sooner believe in Santa Claus than believe the same intel agencies that are trying to kill Trump, saying it's really some Iranian schmucks.
Right. I think they're working in cahoots. I mean, look, what's better than if it does happen to
Iran?
We are. I mean, look, the reality of it is they're almost allies to one administration, which is this one. The guy coming in is the guy that's trying to destroy them. I mean, think about the logistics here, folks.
Agree. I'm
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead and finish.
No, I'm saying if they do pull it off, they simply said, look, Iran did this. Tough break. Oh, my God. Bad Iran.
Lynn Bleckstein, give us your opinion on the congressman who said the intel officer told him there were 5 assassination squads. We covered that. Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz
out of Florida said the guy was in his office, Department of Homeland Security. I find no challenge to that veracity.
Seems more articles coming out all the time.
Yeah, Matt Gaetz. I mean, part of it is fairly well documented. I mean, the guy came into Matt Gaetz's office in Florida and told him this. So it would be a pretty bold lie by a congressman to say that.
Without a doubt. All thrust, no rudder. Sears sold cars, the Allstate car, based on the Kaiser Henry J.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know either. I knew Allstate was tied in with Sears for the insurance, but I never knew there was a car.
Well, Kaiser will later go to Nixon and come up with an assembly line idea for medical treatment, and that would become Kaiser Permanente, the first group insurance program in the history of the
HMO.
Yeah, he invented that, Kaiser, with Nixon. He said, we're going to make an assembly line Henry Ford model of medical treatment, and it's going to be the HMO, and that is Kaiser Permanente. And Nixon went into it and bought into it and said, let's do this. And Kaiser Aluminum.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess the car was made out of aluminum, which was his thing.
Could be. K-Dog, underwear fighter, Hamrin Paul Pelosi dumped $500,000 Visa just before DOJ lawsuit filed against Visa. Martha Stewart committed, probably just a coincidence. Yeah.
Look, I wouldn't lump Martha Stewart into it, but the reality of
she had her stock thing that went down.
Is that why she went to the big house?
Yeah, because she had insider trading, but they didn't get her on that. They got her on obstruction because she
Alliance of Federal Agents, Eric?
Yeah, the standard.
Yeah. But nobody seems to interview these people. There's got to be a day of reckoning. And I just wanted to add one more thing. We're going to do Hunt Part 3, not on Tuesday, but the following Tuesday, which is going to be unbelievable. The amount of books that I've gotten just on Hunt is going to break my bank. So I want to thank everyone for sending in through PayPal donations of the Nixon Book Fund, not to be confused with the JFK Book Fund, which is another separate book fund. The Nixon thing, the books that I've gotten are rare, and the ones on Hunt are rare. There's one I got on Helms that was written posthumously, which is unbelievable. The connection between Helms and LBJ will be explored in Part 3. I had no idea till I got this book last night, thanks to the Nixon Book Fund people who have been donating money towards it. With the links are down below, but holy crap, the stuff that Helms is going to get his own episode, but the connection between Helms and LBJ, I had no idea. No idea. And Nixon had no connection to Helms. Helms said, I don't know why he didn't trust me, blah, blah, blah. And also Nixon had no real connection to J. Edgar Hoover, and it was LBJ's best friend. I mean, the two connections to the two agencies we're going to explore in the Part 3 of Hunt, because the LBJ's connection to both those guys, they were the closest connections he had in government. Wow. He appointed Helms to be the head of the CIA, by the way, after spending a week on his ranch riding around drinking in one of his Jeeps.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, this is going to be good, my friend. So thanks for the donations.
All right. Dog Boy said the Chinese, don't say it again, Mark. Dude, that's old school. Trump 2024.
I know. I just got it under the radar. I just wanted to get one in there.
Dog Boy, my Coke dealer picked a bad time to die of old age.
Yeah.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah. Could happen to anybody.
Oh, Pew Pew said, thanks for the awesome content. Locals later. See you there. Dogboy Wallace is every parent's nightmare unless they are thems. Yeah.
I don't know. He looks like the kind of guy that you would not want to turn your kid over to a Boy Scout sleepover camp event in a uniform with short pants. I see Waltz in that Boy Scout outfit and short pants saying, your kids will be fine with me, Mrs. Robinson.
Waltz
he just has that look, Eric.
Yeah, Waltz makes me think of Adam Carolla saying years and years and years ago that he's a big believer that anybody who wants to be a scout leader, keep them the hell away. Yeah. It's like, I want the guy who say, damn it, I want to watch the game.
Right.
You want the one who doesn't want to deal with the kids.
The reverse is Little League manager, because nobody wants to do it. And I always wanted to be a Little League manager with my own team of kids. So that's the reverse. Like, they can't get enough guys to be Little League manager because there's so much work and there's a lot of stuff to do. So it's not the same as the Boy Scout manager, but neither one I've ever done. So I think you're right about that.
All right.
By the way, I think the debate is the 15th of October, if I remember correctly, and if anybody can verify that.
The Walls Vance.
JD Vance debate, which is
really late. It's super late.
Super duper late, bro. I mean, the voting is going to be on for a month before these two go at it.
Yeah, that's weird.
I mean, if Vance all of a sudden holds up a document going, I have here your signed confession that you were an agent of the Communist Party, everyone's going to go, whoops, I voted too early.
Yeah. Brian D said, someone said the word Trump isn't working on super chats. AUS wins and I got tricked. Wanted to say thank you for the real news.
Thanks, Brian. Right. That's a great thing on the bottom of your face, whatever that supposedly is.
I think it's his tongue sticking out.
No, that whole beard thing. It looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, watch out, Pasha. David Marsh. If you need someone to talk Ukraine more, I know a lot about it and have contacts in the U.S. military-industrial complex.
I don't know what I need to know. I mean, I know what I know already, and it's maybe
we met David. He was at Youngstown.
Right. I understand. I'm just saying this may be the biggest military debacle in American history, and it's not even amounting to losses of American soldiers. This thing, I think, may be more money already than 20 years of Afghanistan.
Wow. Mike A. lefty tweeted a Trump ad where he's selling watches and said, I'm so embarrassed for my country. I clicked on the site, was impressed, and then commented, thanks for posting. I bought a watch.
It was a Trump watch or?
Oh, I get it. Okay. Some lefty posted an ad because Trump has ads and he's selling different things, the Bible and this and that.
You know, this is a watch, though, not a Bible, right?
Right. Well, he's got watches. He's got other things.
Right. No, but I'm saying just to regard the watches, political watches are as old as American political history. There is literally every single type of watch of candidates ever imaginable. Again, these people make schmucks out of themselves because they don't know their own American history. There's Nixon watches, there's Reagan watches, there's George McGovern watches. Of course, that's broken, only correct once or twice a day. But there are watches of both sides of the political aisle.
Well, it makes sense because a watch, especially if they're round, matches a pin.
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of natural. To
yeah.
Over and then slap it out. It's probably a very cheaply made.
It's not a new thing. I mean, and it's very cheaply made and it's very generic. And most candidates have had that in American political history.
All right. Thurston Howell III said, what would Milhouse do if he was in Don's shoes?
Donald
Trump.
Donald Trump. Well, who knows? I mean, he cut and ran. I believe, and I'm going to get to this when we get into the Nixon episodes because I have to read like 15 Nixon memoir books. But I believe, and I've come to the conclusion that he left because of his pension. And that if he had, yes, and the pension right out of the bat was $60,000 plus 100 for office at the time, or 130 for office and 60 for salary. And I believe that if he had been convicted and impeached, there was no pension. And that's why he left.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's as simple as that, because nobody's been able to figure this out.
Well, I've also speculated with you on that, though, saying that he was just over it. He was
no. He didn't get over it. He didn't.
No. I meant he wasn't going to win another election. He already won twice, so he was a lame duck.
Oh yeah, no. Again,
so
that's the common.
Why keep fighting?
You're mentioning the common wisdom. That is the common wisdom. And
the pension adds to it as well. Sure.
What's that?
And the pension just adds
to the
it.
pension. There's a whole chapter in a book about Nixon's pension in detail, and I think it's not Jeff Shepard. Another guy has a whole chapter just on his pension and how much he was paid, and the money, how it kept him afloat until he reconfigured his law firm and started to make big money, and also when he sold the rights to the David Frost interview, which I think was $600,000 with the BBC. That was a big payday, but there was a period of time, and then he had the pension for life, Eric, as you're well aware.
Well, he was not a rich guy. I mean,
no. There was some tax stuff that he had wiggled his way out of, like many of them do, by donating stuff to the government, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But when he left, it might have been because of the pension. I'll just put that out there.
That makes sense. He probably needed the money.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I don't think he and Johnson hated each other. I think Johnson kind of halfway respected him, partly because Johnson grew up poor as hell too.
Yeah. Oh, no. There was a different, I wouldn't say camaraderie, but there was definitely respect. He called LBJ an animal. I mean, I don't know how you get around that, but
he meant it in the nicest.
He was already dead. No, he was already dead. So I don't think Johnson hurt him.
All right. Lynn Bleckstein said, I grew up in a middle-class family. Yeah, that's Kamala's answer.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter, and I said that she grew up in a household with two PhD grant-winning upper middle-class parents who globetrotted around the globe, by the way, both of them, doing different things in a middle-class family. I said, I grew up in a family where my father was a grease monkey and my mother was a housewife. I said, that's a middle-class family. I mean, the house that we bought in Massapequa, we just looked it up on Zillow, selling for $586,000. We bought it, my parents bought it for $19,999, brand new, turnkey, nobody in it, nothing in it, brand new neighborhood, $19,999. That's middle class. That's middle class. Not living where you're getting a salary of $175,000 times two people.
Speaking of her parents, have you seen the stuff that Candace Owens is doing?
Yes, I did.
But this is the most shocking thing out of all that is Kamala Harris put up a picture of her with her grandmother.
Yep, I saw it.
Who was dead before she was born.
Yep, I saw that. I don't know what to make of this whole thing. Dude, it's so crazy what she's done. And it's not her. She said her fans have become Sherlock Holmeses. And some chick in New Zealand dug out the birth certificates out of Jamaica, and she put them up on the screen. And the photos of, dude, it's so crazy. It's so Obama-esque. I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, it's getting crazy. All right, Lillian Inman is a new member. Thank you. And then we have another member giver. Gino has come in and given 20 America's Untold Stories memberships.
Human Gino.
Thank you very much.
Gino account.
And bought yet another one for himself.
Yeah, he couldn't live with himself. It's Gino. It's the way he rolls. It's the way he rolls.
Thank you very much, Gino.
That's the same guy again for 20?
No, it's the same. I just was given a little more screen time to, thank you, because I don't want to take away from it. Randy H gave us $20. Thank you. And Pew Pew is not done.
What does he do? He sits there and he figures, I'm just going to go back into the nest.
That's right.
And do it again.
That's right.
Like, why don't they do it all at once? Is there some?
Because to spread it out. I mean, if you do it all in one shot, it's mentioned one time. That's
okay. I don't know.
If you do it 10 times, you get,
Are there people in the comment section now getting them right now?
Yes, they should be.
Okay.
Now, unfortunately, as I've come to find out, Pew Pew does not have the option to choose whom to give it to. YouTube randomly assigns the memberships to people who are watching the show live at the time, just so people know. So if you're watching it on replay, your replay crew, you can't be gifted a membership. It's already gone by. You have to be watching it live.
Oh, yeah. They want to be Jesus Christ in all areas, don't they?
Yeah. Alex Davy Duke said, "Hi, guys. The idea the Iranians are behind Trump's unalive is total BS. This is so false flag."
Yeah, especially when, thanks for the donation, Alex. Especially when 3 branches of the government come out at the same time, saying State Department, Pentagon, and somebody else came out at the same time, says, yeah, it's the Iranians. They're the ones, the Iranians. It's a little suspect.
I guess so. Oh.
That was Mike Tyson in the State Department, by the way.
Okay. The hell. All right. Agatha Raisin had a Rumble rant saying, Grobert, can you talk about your writing process? Do you write daily or sporadically? Do you focus on one project or juggle a few at a time?
No.
By the way, I'm a Locals member and I love it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. The process, the writing is the most painful. Like I said the other day, the research, and I'm not alone. Other people say the same thing. The research is the fun. The writing is the pain. So you try to keep the research going as long as humanly possible, just for sheer joy. You convince yourself that it's necessary when it may not be, because you want to avoid actual writing. Nobody likes writing. That's a physical dreck. But the process itself is to research as long as humanly possible. And what I tend to do, if you're talking about writing there's different kinds of writing. Obviously, it's different if I'm writing an article for a newspaper as opposed to a screenplay. It's all different parts, but with screenplay stuff, if that's what you're referring to, because the other one, you've got a deadline and you got to turn something in. That's a whole different process. But with screenplays, I mean, I always recommend people write out about 150 scenes on index cards. And I say scenes, I mean like a sentence. Oswald gets shot in the stomach or whatever, right? And then you have 150 of these at the end, and you could cut them down to 50. And if they're about 3 minutes long as a scene, you have an entire screenplay, if that makes any sense to people out there. That's kind of the formula on how I do it, and a lot of other people do it, is to do that type. This is after the research I'm talking about. When you physically get to the writing, if you can put them on your floor, this might be too inside baseball, but if you can put them on your floor, all 150 index cards that really just have one sentence on them, and put them in the order of the movie as you want to see it, chuck out about 100 of them and keep 50, the primary 50. And each of those will end up being about 3 pages, which is the length approximately of a scene. And if you multiply that by 50, that's 150 pages. That's your screenplay.
Yeah, it's a page a minute, right?
Right. So, but I'm saying these index cards that have a line on them, that would be an individual scene. And so it's a rough measurement, but it's a place to get started from.
Okay. I mean, well, that makes sense. Alex Davy Duke said, Mark, your research and talk on E. Howard Hunt is just amazing. I am so floored how these old CIA guys are so educated, multilingual, multi-book.
Yeah, I mean, watch Condor. I mean, originally the book was 6 days of the Condor. So Hollywood said, we don't have time for 6 days. They could have done it 3 days of the Condor. But what does Condor say? He says, I just read books. And that's what, there were plenty of guys in the CIA, and Buckley was one of them, down in Mexico, William F. Buckley, when he was working under Hunt. He had to read and translate books. And that's what Condor is essentially doing when the station is hit in New York in 3 days of the Condor. But these were obviously mostly Ivy Leaguers from the OSS, and he came from Brown Hunt, and so did Charles Colson, and we're going to get into Colson after Hunt. But most of these guys were Ivy League. They were the creme de la creme. Whether you like the Ivy League or not is not really the point. They were well-read people, and a lot of them are writers. Interestingly enough, Hunt writing 75 books. I mean, this is not a small intellectual bug of a man. I mean, These are guys who are very smart. Whether they, you know, did the political right thing or they broke the law, whatever, that's, you know, smart guys do stupid things. But nevertheless, these were not thugs. Let me just put it that way.
All right. Dubby said, Eric, I'm fairly sure YouTube assigns them by watch time on the stream. This is memberships.
Right.
And I don't know for, you know, so I defer to
the amount of watch time on the stream?
I guess. Yolanda Gaines says, not true. I have received memberships when I wasn't watching.
Oh, Gaines
click
versus,
the allow button.
Put these two together. Let them fight it out. That's a good battle.
Could be. I just don't know.
Look, I don't know how a toaster oven works, to quote Woody Allen.
All right. Ginny's getting inky with it. Did you all see the CNN thing with kids talking about politics and busying the home of people supporting the opposite party?
Is that the kid that said he was a liar? He said she was a liar. That's where it came from.
Is it? I don't know.
That little kid was part of an interview of a group of little kids. That kid said she was a liar, and many other kids said other nasty things about her. I think that's what she's referring to.
Well, I saw that part, but I didn't see about going back and forth and visiting other families or things. I don't know. I think
they did.
But what I do know is we're going to be heading over to Locals, the place we've been talking about.
Don't leave me here, Hunley.
Where the cool kids.
Don't leave me here with these people. I can't say CHIN.
Yeah, no weird words, nothing.
Sue, and then the other part of it. I can't stay over here anymore.
You can't. We can't. We have to escape. We have to go to an outlet.
Well, we'll find out. Not this Tuesday, because we're going to do election stuff on Tuesday. Maybe we'll get Rich Barris to come on with us on Tuesday. Go over some of these polls if we could pry him away from. Well, he's got Barnes on Monday. Highly recommend Inside the Numbers with Barnes. It's one of the most.
I think it's What Are the Odds? The Barnes one's What Are the Odds? Okay. Inside the Numbers is Rich's other 4 shows.
Right. Okay. Whatever's on Monday, which is with Barnes, that's the one to watch, because Robert is going to do the show every Monday, he said, until the election. And there is more information about these phony polls. I was texting with Rich this morning about the Bloomberg poll that came out this morning saying she's ahead in every single battleground state. And, you know, Barris had a laugh. And I just said, you know, maybe we should just refer to these polls as propaganda polls and make that a buzz phrase for these polls that are hired by them to come up with these numbers and drive momentum. And there's got to be a name. In other words, calling them polls now doesn't really serve us anymore. These are propaganda polls, is what I suggested to Rich as a phrase to describe them, because the polls, saying that these are legitimate polls is now ridiculous. These are completely political operatives who are being paid to generate numbers for the campaign. So we have to delineate with some name, and maybe the audience can come up with a name. The name I came up with was propaganda polls, and I'm going to talk to Rich about that when we have him on next time.
It's like push polls, but a variant.
Well, push polls is a separate thing. These are pure out and out propaganda polls that are
narrative polls.
Yeah, they're narrative polls. I don't know what the phrase is, but we need a phrase. So if anybody comes up with one,
comment below. I mean, but you guys can come up with this.
Yeah, you could come up with this on your own. I said to Rich propaganda polls just for simplicity's sake. But there's got to be a phrase for this, because this is ridiculous. I mean, they hand them off. Robert was talking about how the New York Times will come up with one poll, hand it off to CBS, and they will then take it and they'll work together for momentum reasons and all kinds of behind the scenes chicanery that none of us are hip to. But the one common denominator is they're not real. You know, they said today she's got a 4-point lead in Pennsylvania. Rich said, obviously, he's got inside information from her own camp that she's down 4 points in Pennsylvania. And even Trump has himself up by 3, and the Harris poll has Trump up by 3 in Pennsylvania. So for Bloomberg to come out today saying she's up by 4 or 5 in Pennsylvania, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
Well, I'm a believer that the internal polls are the only ones that are legitimate.
Right, but he's got sources, Rich, inside. It's not like they're inside the campaign. It's just the polling. He must know a guy who's doing polling inside their campaign and tells us the real inside numbers, which is all you really need. How you get them is another problem. But the reality of it is, these polls that are coming out that RCP uses as an average of all polls is not accurate. And there's a lot of things on that show that I think our audience would enjoy.
Agree. And before we go, we got a couple of super chats that snuck in. Gino said, "Great hat, Mark. Terminally ill guy down here in Florida. I guess we all are. Would love to have you do a live event in Daytona Beach on A1A near Riptide."
What is A1A? On the road itself?
I don't know.
On the Highway 1?
I don't know. If you've got some sort of connections or something, you can always go to americasuntoldstories.com/contact.
Yeah, I like Daytona
messages.
Beach. I would love to go to Daytona Beach, and I love it up there. And I used to go to Vero Beach when the Dodgers had spring training. I used to go every year with my dad. My dad and mother lived in West Palm Beach for nearly 30 years. We'd go to Vero every spring training, me and my dad drive up there. So I have no opposition to that.
All right, and Ginny's going to ink in with it, closing it out. The liar clip was separate. The conservative kids were open to visiting the dim homes, but the dim kids said their parents wouldn't let them.
Oh, I see. I got it. I got it. Well, look, it's like, you know, Tim, the Cub Scout leader. I mean, the Republican parents wouldn't let their kids go with that Tim Walz Cub Scout leader, but the Democrats probably would say, absolutely, come back another sex if you can. I mean, if you go off with them, please come back differently than you are.
Please don't return with your genitalia intact.
Yeah, just leave that in the woods. Don't even bring that home. Don't even bring that home. If you're going to do that, I hope that Scout Tim will do the right thing and leave your stuff in the woods.
Leave your stuff in the woods, but we're going to leave it on locals and see you there.
Okay.